Mike, over to you.
Greetings from Arlington, Virginia. My name is Michael Korf, and it was my privilege to serve as co-chair of the 2023 Awards Committee, and I am pleased to welcome you to this first Monday forum on behalf of the Public Diplomacy Council of America, the USC Annenberg Center for Communication Leadership and Policy, and the George Washington University Institute for Public Diplomacy and Global Communication. Our program today is the first of two programs focusing on the 2023 PDCA Awards for Excellence in Public Diplomacy. The 2023 awards would not have been possible without the support of Morgan Cox and her colleagues in the Office of Policy, Planning, and Resources, in the Office of the Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs. I would also like to thank the members of this year's awards committee for their diligent and thoughtful review of the nominations. We extend special thanks to our technical host, Alastair Somerville, who asked me to remind you to please put questions in the Q&A box and any technical questions in the chat box. I would now like to ask Dave Panetti, Cultural Attaché at the Consulate General in Istanbul, who nominated our first award recipient, to introduce Onur Dizdar. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks very much, Michael, and to everyone around the world, I hope, who is tuned in this evening. Greetings from Istanbul, Turkey. And I'd like to begin by thanking the Public Diplomacy Council of America for the opportunity to nominate candidates for this award, this very prestigious award. As Michael said, I'm the cultural attaché here in Istanbul, Turkey. I've been here for 3 years, and I've had the great honor to work with Onur. Onur Dizdar is one of our cultural assistants in the public diplomacy section here in Istanbul. And for the last 3 years, he and I have worked very closely on a number of projects together. And of course, as I think you are aware, one of the most interesting and unusual projects we've worked on has dealt with this idea of gaming and gaming in public diplomacy, and how gaming can be used as a tool to serve our, to meet our goals and to establish new audiences and to work with really interesting and exciting people on really interesting and exciting subject areas. So Onur and I started this about 3 years ago, and it was something that we started thinking, we don't really know much about gaming. We're kind of casual gamers at best. And Onur knew more than I did about the industry, but we began by introducing ourselves to people who work in the industry and getting to know people. And from there, I think you'll learn from Onur's presentation in a few moments just how much it did grow and how much it actually continues to grow. And it's really been an honor to work with Onur on this project. And without further ado, I'd like Onur to take the stage. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy.
Thank you, Dave, for nominating me for this award. And I'd like to thank Public Diplomacy Council of America for honoring me with this award. And I'd like to thank Public Diplomacy Section Istanbul colleagues who contributed to this effort. After all, it was a team effort. And US Mission Turkey colleagues. Without their support, this award would not have been possible. And special thanks to Joshua Shan, Foreign Service Officer, who led the way for us. And I'd like to start sharing my screen now. Okay, so before I start talking about what we did, I want to talk about why we did it. As they mentioned, we looked at numbers because people love video games, and that's where people are now. And globally, and as we are in Turkey, it's also growing here. Youth and adults are spending more time playing video games more than ever. And its economic value is growing. Globally, video game market is increasing, And also in Turkey, it was one of the most dynamic young population and dynamic population. Turkey is the fastest growing country in Europe, or also globally, in terms of revenues and the market value. And video games, in addition to their economic value, they help teachers and learners. They provide job and life skills, can address and tackle important social and environmental issues, build ties between people, and promote peace, which are all at the center of our public diplomacy efforts. And with that in mind, we looked, as Dave said, at options like what we can do, who we can work with. And then it didn't take long to figure out the game developers should be our target audience. But not just that, they should be our partners in this, and they should be our beneficiaries, because game developers are the masterminds behind these games. People spend hours and hours in, and the stories they create, the characters they build, they inspire people, and they actually create societies, cultures where people come together and build relationships, which kind of create its own culture. And we wanted to enter this world with them and try to understand and speak their language. After months of planning, networking, brainstorming, we came up with several ideas, but the Tech Camp, our flagship project, ended up becoming the most rewarding, but also it was many firsts for us, because in Tech Camp's history, it became the first Tech Camp which focused on gaming. And also in Turkey, we found out such an event had never been done before. An event that actually brought together so many different partners to work on these issues using video games. So we invited 65 promising game developers from Turkey to work with civil society leaders, entrepreneurs, educational specialists, and university professors, including Turkey and United States, to focus on 3 topics: media literacy, women's empowerment, and environment, which were actually US Turkey Mission Turkey priority topics. In the opening, Ambassador Jeffrey Flake delivered opening remarks, who made him the first ambassador in Turkey who actually appeared in a gaming event. Also, his attendance garnered publicity for our event. Keynotes were delivered by 2 US experts who kindly came all the way from the US to Istanbul, and their expertise and their keynotes set the tone of the whole event, and also contributed a lot to the vision and work of these game developers for 3 days. We held NGO sessions where actually game developers met these very prominent Turkish NGOs to discuss the pressing issues in their areas, and discussed ideas on how to tackle these issues using video games and digital technologies. And that game developers also went deeper into game development techniques and basics with additional individual sessions with local trainers. These were simultaneous, so they could pick which one they want to attend. And after that, they break out to 19 different teams. Each chose their team members, formed game developer teams, picked a topic, and started bringing ideas to fruition. And this went on for 1.5 days, at the end of which they ended up creating 19 games, game prototypes, as they call it, to actually present to a jury who would select 6 of them for further development. These are the presentations. And this ended the event, 3-day event, and we got incredible feedback and response from the game developers. More than 88% said they developed valuable relationships in Tech Camp that would advance their work, and 84% said they improved new skills. Thanks to our amazing press team, We got great media coverage all around Turkey, and we helped our message to reach a broader audience, and also our social media accounts. And after the event, game developer teams continue to do online mentorship for the next 3 months, and they continue to learn more about game development and these social and educational topics. And at the end, 2 games from each category were completed and were published and released online, and they are free to play. We attended last year, June in 2022, Turkey's largest gaming expo, Gaming Istanbul, with more than 50,000 visitors, had the chance to experience tech camp games. And actually, Dave presented at the event, talking about educational, cultural, and commercial opportunities for game developers. We partnered with our US Foreign Commercial Service to inform gaming companies about investment opportunities in the US. And also we partnered with Education USA, who informed students about educational opportunities in the US. Our implementing partner, Dr. Güven Çatak, presented the Tech Camp project and games at Games for Change Festival. It's a global gaming event, and Games for Change allowed us to inform global game developer community about our project. As an extension, we did the Tech Camp Istanbul Game Friendly Teachers Workshop, which actually this time brought together K-12 teachers, and they joined sessions on how to use games in the classroom. Consul General Julie Ida hosted an event at her residence to close the event. We created an experience corner where actually guests got to experience the games with the developers. This included Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Erica Olson. And our journey continues as this year, Exchange Alumni Affairs Bureau partnered with Tech Camp to provide funds for projects from alumni of the Tech Camp. And one project from Istanbul called Serious Games for Earthquake Awareness and Preparedness has been selected and will be implemented. As you may know, Turkey was hit by an earthquake this year, and now it's one of the pressing issues in Turkey and the United States, is supporting Turkish government and civil society and people in disaster awareness and preparedness, and this project will contribute to those efforts. Before I finish, I would like to briefly mention a few more projects we did in gaming in addition to Tech Camp. We organize speaker programs, facilitate and sponsor US speakers to speak to Turkish game developer audience in the event called In the Way. So far, we have organized 8 speakers, including the one and only Dave. And this helped Turkish game developer community learn from the American audience, American speakers, and that contributes a lot to them. With a partnership with ECA, we partnered with Robert College, the oldest continuously operating American school founded outside the United States. We helped them establish their first esports club, which will focus on a curriculum on leadership, entrepreneurship, and STEAM education. We launched an English course for game developers in partnership with Regional English Language Office here in Ankara and 2 of our local implementing partners. For a 6-month period, game developers improved their English and got better at interviews and professional job search. And next week, we have another guest speaker coming to Istanbul, trainer from Games for Change, Arana, and we will engage with more audiences through her, with her, and we will work with museums, universities, and schools on how to use games, and we will continue as a public diplomacy section to continue to build ties, educational and cultural, through video games. That was my presentation. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Onur. Now I'm going to ask Silvio Gonzalez, the PAO in Mexico City, to introduce Monica Sarmiento. Silvio, over to you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias from Mexico City. It's really terrific to be part of the Public Diplomacy Council of America presentation this morning, and really to highlight what Monica Sarmiento has meant to probably the most consequential relationship that exists for the United States. Certainly there's no more consequential than the relationship with Mexico. We share about 2,000 miles border, 40 million Mexicans trace back their heritage, Americans trace back their heritage to Mexico. We've got over 1.5 million Americans living in Mexico, with over 25 million visiting annually. And so what do I say in all this statistics? Simply just because it is one where the bicentennial celebrations, 200 years of diplomatic relations between the United States and Mexico, we focus on people. And there was no better person to do that than Monica Sarmiento. Monica, I've had the pleasure of working with Monica. Actually, it's been a year now. And I can tell you she's the anchor of this section. She's the anchor in terms of the relationship that exists between our two countries. And through her contacts, through her demeanor, through her ability to connect people, she was able to highlight the bicentennial using our alumni, our educational programs, engagement of the private sector, engagement of all of our educational exchanges, and to build a narrative that really highlighted what people are about. Don't need to tell you a history lesson about the complex relationship that Mexico has had with the United States, or the United States has had with Mexico over the past. And so when we looked at the ability to sort of reshape the narrative in terms of the relationship, we looked at the people, what makes us, how we share our values, how we work together, and how do we reach those goals of a North American continent working together economically and socially as well. And so Monica really identified that and looked at people and encouraged people to participate. And so we had a broad range of activities, over 260 activities, both Mexico and in the United States, to celebrate this bicentennial, which continues until December 12th of this year. So we're so proud of Monica. She's done a terrific job, and her ability to really identify and to connect and have that empathy across the board is what makes us so strong. So without further ado, let me introduce Monica.
Thank you so much, Silvio. Hello, everyone from Mexico. My name is Monica Sarmiento, Strategic Public Engagement Specialist at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. Congratulations to the award winners from Embassy Kyiv, Consulate General Istanbul, and Embassy Tirana. PDCA board members, please accept my absolute gratitude for recognizing our bicentennial efforts. I am very honored to be part of the public diplomacy family. Everything that we have accomplished on the margins of the bicentennial could not have been possible without the vision and leadership of Ambassador Ken Salazar, our DCM Stephanie Siptak Ramnath, our Minister Consular for Public Diplomacy Silvio Gonzalez, Senior Advisor Sepa Krieger, my PD colleagues, and the mission community. On December 12, 1822, following the conclusion of the Mexican struggle for independence from Spain, José Manuel Sosa y Bermúdez presented his credentials as Envoy Extraordinary to U.S. President James Monroe, establishing formal relations between our two countries. On December 12, 2022, the United States and Mexico commemorated the 200th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. We kicked off a year-long celebration and commemoration with over 200 events across the United States and Mexico the week of December 12. 8 events took place in both the United States and Mexico, 95 events in Mexico in 26 states, 28 virtual events, and 74 events in the United States in 19 states and Washington, D.C. Bicentennial Week was marked by high-profile events: a visit from the Special Presidential Advisor for the Americas, Chris Dodd, bilateral meetings with President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and Foreign Secretary Marcelo Ebrard, and a series of engagement with federal and state governments. The private sector, academia, and civil society highlighted what Secretary Blinken has termed the most consequential relationship for the United States. Across all levels of government, we saw messages on the importance of the bilateral relationship, including from President Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, President López Obrador, Dr. Gutierrez Müller, Secretary Blinken, Senate leadership, both houses of Mexico's legislative branch, the states of Colorado, Querétaro, and Puebla, and cities and counties across both countries like Pima County, Arizona, San Antonio, and Philadelphia. Programmatic and media engagement showed many areas of common interest, from the environment, arts and education, and the impact on the average person of high-level dialogues improving security, economic integration, and migratory flows. To highlight our people as our strongest bond, the mission focused on the people-to-people relationship, leveraging sporting events, US government program alumni, popular culture, and local communities. We engaged with the National Football League, National Basketball Association, the World Boxing Council, and Lucha Libre on a series of bicentennial programs to enhance the image of the United States as an invaluable and accessible partner among youth and average citizens. Major network Televisa also aired a series of interviews with Mexican alumni of US government exchange programs, where they described their experiences in the US. The interviews reached an audience of over 11 million viewers. We organized an art exhibit of Mexican artists inspired by Mexican-American artists at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The ambassador hosted a bicentennial reception for more than 400 guests. In coordination with the Mexican government, we organized a musical performance which was attended by almost 400 guests. The ambassador challenged US and Mexican academic institutions to join us in the bicentennial 200 Education Challenge to expand the number of academic exchanges between our nations. Efforts to highlight the bicentennial across Mexico included activities such as a bridge reading in Matamoros, also a time capsule in Nuevo Laredo, which held historical records and objects to be buried from preservation until 2042, a bicentennial baseball game hosted by Monterrey Sultanes, and an unveiling of a 5-meter tall statue at the San Isidro Port of Entry, sponsored by the city of Tijuana. Social media throughout the week of December 12th amplified the keynote events. Bicentennial messages reached over 55 million viewers through broadcast media and over 2 million followers via our digital media platforms. The missions posting have been shared using the hashtag 200YearsUSMX and 2 Nations, 1 Future. In conjunction with the Mexican government, we launched a logo contest allowing Mexican and American citizens to submit logo proposals. Bicentennial activities have continued and will continue throughout 2023. So far, we have organized over 400 events in Mexico and in the US, collaborating with different stakeholders to celebrate the first 2 centuries of a rich, dynamic, productive, and growing partnerships. For example, Consulate Tijuana inaugurated a bicentennial mural featuring key moments and images in shared San Diego-Tijuana history. A bicentennial stamp cancellation ceremony took place in the United States last March, where Secretary Blinken used the stamp in a letter to Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Marcelo Ebrard. In Mexico, the Director General of the Mexican Postal Service also launched the stamp cancellation for the bicentennial. Last month, US celebrity chefs Aaron Hernandez, Amanda Freitag, and David Rose debuted the bicentennial dish, a Mexican barbecue shrimp on cornbread pudding with jalapeno pineapple slaw, during a live 8-minute segment on Major Televisa morning show. Last week, we inaugurated a bicentennial pavilion at the Association of International Educators 2023 annual conference, an event that attracted over 8,000 participants and provided a key space to promote and advance academic mobility. Future events will include a bicentennial 5K race. The Mexican Congress approved a bill to mint a 20 peso coin to commemorate the bicentennial. By midsummer, this 20 peso coin might be in circulation. The United States will be the guest country of honor at the prestigious International Cervantino Festival in Guanajuato to be held in October. Mission Mexico's bicentennial programming builds on significant improvements in public perceptions of the United States in Mexico and lays the groundwork for strengthening bilateral relationships in the years ahead. Our nations are connected by the busiest border in the world. The bicentennial is a time for transformation. We are the authors of this history, and we are taking advantage of the power of momentum, of not waiting, but creating. 200 years are a ladder, but we will keep doing every day of the next 200 years amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. And I would now like to ask Amanda Roberson, the PAO in Tirana, to introduce the team from Albania, sorry.
Thank you, Michael. I'm here at the U.S. Embassy in Tirana, Albania, with 3 members of my team. Ina Begotaray, Katerina.
And Antonio Texia.
On behalf of all of us, I want to say thank you to PDCA for this award, and a special thanks to our Ambassador Yuri Kim for nominating us, to our Deputy Chief of Mission, Damian Smith, for his support, and our PAO, Chad Twitty, for helping make it all possible, and to everyone at our embassy who supported our Mobile American Corner bus tour of Albania. So now we have a short video to show you a little bit about what the bus tour was all about. So Alistair, if you could please play the video now. Hello, Albania. Are you ready for the Mobile American Corner? Our American bus tour is making its second tour around Albania, and we're coming to a city near you. So come check it out. We've got American games, sports, music, and much more. Plus, you can learn about all of the initiatives that we have for youth around Albania to participate.
This year, the Mobile American Corner bus will be traveling to Tirana, Elbasan, Fier, Saran,
Shkodër, Rëshen, and Tropoj.
We are expanding our network of young Albanians, and we want you to be part of it.
We are jump-starting 5 new local youth groups in every city that we visit this year. Come and join us as we shape the future of Albania.
The U.S. Embassy Outdoor Ambassadors are passionate about preserving Albania's natural beauty, and we want to show you how you can help too. Because we love Albania, and we know you do too.
If you're dreaming of studying in the United States but don't know where to start, we've got your back.
We're loading up our bus and bringing America to you. So come out and join us and bring all your friends. Shihemi Nakandan American La Visas. America Tech T. Thanks, Alistair. So we launched the Mobile American Bus Tour of Albania to celebrate 100 years of diplomatic relations between US and Albania, which happened last year in 2021. And the idea behind the bus tour was to bring American culture and to really share the spirit of American-Albanian friendship with people all over Albania, not just in the capital of Tirana, and not just in cities where we have American corners, which are essentially American rooms inside of national libraries. So we branded an American bus. We loaded it up with everything that we needed to stand up an American fair in each of the 6 cities that we visited. Our goal was to reach especially young people around the country to tell them how they can participate with all of the initiatives that the embassy has. Katerina?
Our team rented a bus and we worked on creating a very appealing, colorful design, which included famous landmarks that most of the Albanians know, and I'm pretty sure people from around the world know, such as the Statue of Liberty, Golden Gate Bridge, Mount Rushmore, NASA, the Capitol, and many more. So the bus itself was actually the main attraction in each city, people coming in to take only pictures and then ending up being part of the main event. The bus journey focused on cities in north and in south of Albania where youth lack easy or physical access to the embassy's American corners and without general exposure to many activities or outreach in general. We have been very careful on the selection of the cities last year and this year, making sure that we cover equally the north and the south of the entire country. One of our main goals was to create a digital youth network, which is essentially a digital subscription list that youth could use to sign up and then become part of it by scanning a QR code that we generated. Through this platform, with the embassy would be timely connected with all the youth from all the cities that we visited. Not only did the young people enjoy the overall concept of a digital youth network by signing up to the QR code, but now, over a year later, more than 2,000 citizens receive regular updates on the opportunities that we offer, on the American corners, on the Education USA, on the embassy's youth groups and exchange programs. And another effort of our outreach is that we have seen a 22% increase in applicants for our exchange programs from outside of Tirana, which is the capital of Albania. With the Mobile American Corner bus tour and journey, we wanted to think about sustainability. What would happen when the entire project was finished? So we worked parallel for another project called Youth Lead and with our Embassy Youth Council to create 6 new youth groups in the cities that we visited last year, and they would work together to address issues in their communities. Antonio?
Why was this project successful? Because of teamwork, because we created a communication strategy before we launched the Mobile American Corner tour with a bus. We knew our goal and we needed to reach people, especially young people, and our social media platforms with the right means to get to them, as we have over 250,000 and more followers there. We wanted to share with them this great project that was about to happen. So we introduced this project online in advance and we share photos and videos throughout the tour, plus interviews with the media. I'm an embassy photographer and a drone pilot, and my job was to capture the powerful visuals of the bus going through amazing landscapes that Albania has to offer. As you saw it in the video at the beginning, the US landmarks designed on the Mobile American Corner bus created a perfect visual of America growing through Albanian landscapes from the mountains to the sea. On the other side, capturing the joy in the face of teens playing American games and learning about the United States really showed that this project did great. But not just that. Can you imagine what a moment like that means to a little boy or girl from a small city that has only heard for the US from television, and now had the chance to experience it firsthand? Ina?
Although this program was such a success, there were also so many challenges that we tried to overcome. First of all, the logistics. The setup and the breakdown were labor intensive. We needed to be there at least 2 hours in advance to set up tents, the tables, games, to sound check. And also we needed to have many volunteers for them to facilitate the process and also to oversee each of the components of the activity. The weather in Albania in spring and summer is usually hot, so we put a lot of sunscreen, we try to stay hydrated, and also we try to find cool places, even though it's a bit difficult because the city centers or the main boulevards are usually open spaces. And also in the meantime, we needed to have a plan B in case of rain, which we were very lucky not to use. Also, the turnout in bigger cities is usually a little bit competitive because there are so many other activities, there are so many other organizations, so the youth need a very good reason to show up. They need the opportunities, the games, good music. While in smaller cities, these activities are seen as the only organizations to go and to participate. We try to come different in each city, although to try to respond to the needs of the community. Also, we try to make a very good reach out with the phone calls, direct phone calls, with WhatsApp groups, with emails. We try to start from the central government with the Ministry of Youth to go to local governments, local NGOs. We try to use our existing networks of our partners, of our alumni, of the Department of State exchange programs. We overcame the challenges by progressing step by step, by making adjustments, by receiving regular feedback, even though in a limited budget. We tried to make an hourly agenda and to make every participant feel engaged, and also we made sure they subscribe in our digital youth network.
So in short, the first Mobile American Corner was such a success last year that everyone who came was already asking us where we were going next year, when we would come to their city. So we knew that we had to do it again. And in fact, just yesterday, we finished Mobile American Corner 2.0. We went to 6 new cities. We talked to thousands of new Albanians, and we had hundreds more youth subscribing to our digital youth network, which keeps growing and expanding. So overall, we're very happy with the results of the program, and that's it for us for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation from all 3 of the recipients of the awards this year. I want to remind everybody that if you have questions for the recipients, to please put them in the Q&A box. We have one question so far, and it's, as you might guess, from our technical host, Alistair Somerville. He asks Onur, is it likely that this idea that you had is going to expand to any of your neighboring countries? Is this something that could be replicated elsewhere, or do you think it's unique to Turkey?
Yes, thanks for the question. After we completed the Tech Camp event, because of the publicity and colleagues who heard about the event contacted us. A group of colleagues in Saudi Arabia contacted us. Joshua, who is in Indonesia, we had a recent call. ECA and the State Department colleagues are already implementing similar projects in other countries that involves video games. And ours was just an addition and a new take. But I think and we are always ready to share our experience with our colleagues worldwide. But what I can say is that it takes a little bit of localization, and each country and each audience is different. So using video games in every country is a great opportunity. And we are ready to share our experience with others, but I know there's a lot more than what we do.
Oh, thank you. We have another question. This is from Dizdar Williamson, who noticed that you've had your Mobile American Corner 2.0. Is there going to be a 3.0 and a 4.0? How often is it likely to be continued in Tirana?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. We definitely want to keep the spirit of the initiative going. Right now, we're kind of going through the process of evaluating the results, because that was an important component of last year's activity, is seeing what the successes were, what we could build upon. So I think it's to be determined whether next year we do it the same way or whether it takes a different format. We do think it's an activity that's worth repeating. As Ina and others said, it's very labor intensive and it can be cost intensive. So it might not be something that we would do every year. Maybe we'd do it every other year or every few years.
Thank you. We'll go on to Joel Fishman, our president, who asks, is there a dislike of games among more conservative elements in Turkey? And have they expressed criticism of the program? And if so, how do you respond to those criticisms? This is for you, Onur.
In contrast to many criticisms, U.S. Mission Turkey is facing. Games and game-related projects and activities were not one of them. I would say we have not received any negative response from either the government or the people of Turkey. And among the game development circles in civil society, we have got full support and only good positive views. And also, I should say that Turkish government is encouraging entrepreneurship in gaming and game development, and is ready to work with American companies and American government for similar projects. So I hope that answered your question, Joe.
Thank you. Anne Barbaro, who is a member of the board of directors of the Public Diplomacy Council of America and chairs its Committee on Finance, has, as you might suspect, a finance question for all three of the recipients today. She wants to know where the major funding for these extraordinary programs came from. And in the case, I guess, of Mexico City, did you have to rely a lot on private funding, or were you able to find other sources of support?
Well, actually, hello everyone, thank you for the question. So funding has been coming from all over different sources, such as private sector, but also federal and state governments. As we were mentioning, so far we have organized over 400 bicentennial events. So it's been a huge effort to convene different stakeholders, including, of course, private sector, but also federal and state governments. But it's been great, the atmosphere of collaboration that we have been creating, not only in Mexico, but also in the US, because we have been very fortunate to partner with so many different stakeholders, from academia, governments, private sector, different NGOs, civil society. So it's been great that everyone has been joining us to celebrate the bicentennial of the 200 diplomatic relations between the US and Mexico.
Thank you. Amanda, did your team have to rely on the resources that you would have anyway, or did you get extra funding in order to be able to support the expenses that were related to this project?
Yeah, so we were able to put together a budget using part of our yearly allotment for our American spaces. So we were able to draw from that budget and also from our public diplomacy budget to put together the amount that we needed. But we also have had both years many contributions, in-kind contributions from private sector supporters such as Coca-Cola, who came and donated product, and also just contributions of time and talent from volunteers, tech companies. A recycling company came this year to teach about waste management. So, you know, certainly value was added in terms of all those contributions too.
Great. Onur, I recall from the nomination that you had to apply for some of your support to the State Department. Maybe you could tell us about that and any other sources of revenue that you had in order to be able to support your project.
Yeah, our flagship project, Tech Camp, was funded by the Tech Camp USA, which is every year receives proposals from all posts and funds selected projects. We were able to get that funding. And our esports project with high schools was funded by ECA's sports diplomacy funds. And other projects, we use some of the mission funds, including some events. We use the rep funds, but mostly we also garnered the volunteer support, some of activities. But I can say they all came from different sources for different projects and activities.
Thank you. We have a question from Damian Smith, who wants a quick reaction from each of the three recipients. Damian wants to know, from your outreach to new audiences, what surprised you? What was unexpected in popularity, for example, from the various people that you met during the course of your projects? Who would like to go first? Amanda, did your team see anything surprising that you hadn't expected?
We were just remarking that one surprising and really wonderful thing to see was the energy of youth, especially in very small places in Albania, in places that are remote, can be hard to reach, don't have many resources. Those are the places where we had the most people come out, the most enthusiastically. And in fact, the youth lead team that Katerina talked about that we created as a follow-on project to have a youth group in each of those cities, they were the hardest working team that won a pitch competition that we just had because they had the best idea. So I think that was a really surprising but also great thing to see, is the talent and the energy that's in smaller cities.
Thank you. Monica, did you have any surprises during the course of your project?
Well, yes, actually, what's been very surprising is that many people, not only in Mexico, but in the US, were not aware that we were celebrating the 200 years of relationship. So we've designed so many promotional materials just to make sure, for example, we have notebooks, I don't think you can see them, but tumblers, pens, pins. So, I mean, we have been developing lots of promotional materials because despite so many events and despite so many audiences we've been reaching out, sometimes it's very surprising that many people in the US and in Mexico are not aware of this 200th anniversary. So that's the reason we keep organizing so many different events with so many different audiences and different stakeholders, just to make sure everyone in Mexico and in the US is aware of this big celebration.
Wonderful. Onur, did you have any surprises? Anything that you hadn't anticipated? That
Yes. We knew we were going to engage a very young audience and beneficiaries, but one thing that impressed me was how talented these young people were and how early they start coding and developing. And one participant at Tech Camp, she was only 18 years old, and she not only developed the game with her team and won they were one of the winning teams, but after like a week later, she came up with her own Tech Camp idea, like a whole project she developed at home, and came to me and said, "Look, I developed my own Tech Camp project," and I was so impressed. It was a good project, and then like how talented these people are, for me, was the most surprising and actually best part.
Wonderful. I have a question from Joe Johnson, going back to Monica. Joe Johnson is a member of the board of directors of PDCA, and he asks if you're doing anything new as a result of the bicentennial. Did something come out of it that's you're going to be able to do in the future that you haven't done in the past?
Yeah, well, for example, we are focusing a lot on increasing the numbers of Mexican students studying in the US. So as a result of the celebration of 200 years of US-Mexico diplomatic relations, the ambassador launched the Bicentennial 200 Education Challenge. So the main goal of that challenge is to increase the numbers of Mexican students in the US from 14,000 to 200,000. So that's a very ambitious goal, but that's one of the results of these celebrations. And of course, I mean, we're working a lot with different sports agencies because sports is a great way to connect both the US and Mexico. So we are also working on so many sports diplomacy activities. Also, as a result of this celebration, through the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, the private sector is donating us money to train more women entrepreneurs in Mexico. So, so far through that program, we have trained 1,000 women throughout Mexico. But on the margins of the bicentennial and with funding from the private sector, this year we will be able to train 700 women throughout 15 different states in Mexico. So those are some of the examples of different programs that we will keep doing as a result of the celebration of the bicentennial.
Wonderful. Matthew Asada, who is a visiting fellow at the University of Southern California, but is in real life a foreign service officer who had a lot to do with our pavilion in Qatar, says he likes the idea of the mobile American space, American corner on wheels, so to speak. And he wonders if other countries have tried to do this. Did you get your inspiration in Tirana from some other post that may have done this, or is it just something that that you came up with?
Yeah, so actually our regional coordinator, Sarah Ziebel, had shared with us when we were first thinking about this idea. She shared with us that Mission India did kind of a related initiative called Book Bus, where they had a bus full of resources, not just books, but other things from their American corners that they would drive into remote parts of India. And if I'm not wrong, I think that initiative still goes on, like on a year. It's kind of an ongoing thing that they do in India. So that was one idea. And yeah, we certainly drew inspiration from that.
Wonderful. I have another question coming in. I have someone from, Pat Kushless, who was the other co-chair of the committee, of the awards committee. She says that she's wondering what Mexico City was able to do with the people in New Mexico. Pat lives in New Mexico, and she's just wondering what events was the 200th anniversary, what was celebrated in New Mexico consequent to the 200th anniversary of diplomatic relations. Monica, do you know anything that might have been in New Mexico?
Not specifically in New Mexico. We've been collaborating a lot with the Mexican embassy in Washington, and they have been the ones reporting on the different events that have been organized in the US. We have not had any specific reports on programming in New Mexico, but for sure we will follow up with our colleagues from the Mexican embassy in the US to make sure we are aware of the different events that have been organized in New Mexico, and if not, to encourage them to join this celebration.
Sticking with Monica, Greta Morris, who is Ambassador Greta Morris, who is a senior member of the Public Diplomacy Council of America, notes that immigration is a persistent theme in the relationship between the United States and Mexico. And she's wondering if you had to deal with this issue of immigration as you were talking both to Mexicans in Mexico, but also to dealing with American concerns here in the United States.
Yes, well, actually, Mission Mexico has 4 different priorities: security, migration, economic development, and narrative. Narrative means the people-to-people programming. So, of course, migration is a very important issue. Of course, it's a complicated one, but that's the reason we as a public diplomacy section have to be very creative to organize different events to tell the story. I mean, to tell the different programs we are organizing throughout Mexico to support migration. And because if you think about it, when we mention education, for example, I mean, education is a very important component to prevent people from migrating to other countries. So that's the reason we are very committed with this Bicentennial 200 Education Challenge to give more opportunities for students in Mexico to be very well prepared. We are also developing different workforce development programs. We are working very closely with the private sector here in Mexico to identify the skills that they need from Mexican young workforce and to try to develop different training programs to make sure we are giving youth throughout Mexico those opportunities. As I mentioned, we have this program, the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. So we're also training women entrepreneurs throughout Mexico with a special focus on the southern states. The southern states in Mexico are those states with high numbers of migration. So we are very focused on those states working on training the workforce there to make sure we are very active and giving other opportunities to Mexicans so they can stay in Mexico.
Thank you. Our final question is from Ambassador Brian Carlson, who's also a member of the PDCA board. He's wondering if any of the three have had contact with other American embassies who have expressed interest in what you're doing. He notes that some American diplomats often feel like they have to struggle to get out of their embassies, and they're just wondering, he's just wondering whether or not other embassies have taken the hint from you and taken advantage of the ideas that you have in order to be able to get outside their embassies. We can begin with Tirana. What about you? Have you been contacted by anybody?
We have, Michael. In fact, right after the first bus tour last summer, we put out a cable and had several embassies contacting us, wanting to know how we did it, kind of questions about the nuts and bolts, everything from the funding to finding an implementing partner. We're planning to put out another cable about the second version of the bus tour this year. And then additionally, this summer, we're going to work on kind of a toolkit that we could also share with other posts who might be interested, but also for posterity for our own office. So yeah, we certainly have had interest.
Wonderful. Onur, anybody else contact you to see if they might be able to take advantage of your idea in their posts?
Yes, the embassy in Saudi Arabia reached out because they wanted to do a similar project in Saudi Arabia because the government there is investing a lot in gaming and esports, and the embassy there wants to engage with audiences there through games. So we shared our tech camp experience with them. I'm sure they're working on something. And then as I thanked Joshua earlier, who is currently in Indonesia, we're always in touch about gaming and gaming related initiatives because he was the guide. He was taking the lead in this for the State Department. And Dave and I learned a lot from him. We continue to cooperate with them to actually advance our work and what new initiatives we can implement. For example, it would be good to see an exchange program for game developers or other tech professionals, in addition to the existing US government exchange programs and in tech. So now I think gaming will be taken more seriously all around the world and also in other posts. And we will continue to engage with audiences using video games, and we are ready to share our experience, whoever is interested.
Wonderful, thank you. Monica, have any other posts, any other embassies contacted you to try to borrow some of your ideas that they want to try to apply in their countries?
Yes, actually, Chile, Peru, and Argentina, they are also celebrating 200 years of diplomatic relations with the US. So they have all reached out to us so we can share ideas of the different programs that we've been developing. And we've been in touch with them, especially to tell them how we have been organizing all these events and how we have been creating these networks of collaboration with different stakeholders from private sector, but also governments. Because, for example, we started working on the planning of our different activities since 2021. So now we have been working on the bicentennial programming for almost 2 years. So yes, other embassies have been reaching out to us, and we've been sharing different examples of the programs, activities, and the way we have been coordinating throughout the mission, because this is not only a PD effort, but this is a mission effort.
That's great. Well, on that note, I do want to thank all three posts for being with us today. I think we've all learned a lot, and we're grateful that you have undertaken your work. I'd now like to turn the program over to Joel Fishman. He's president of PDCA, and he'll have some final words for us.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you to Alastair Somerville and Gabrielle Stahl for serving as tech host today. This is Gabby's first week as our new Tom Tuck Fellow. There was a lot going on today. It was a good introduction to Gabby, to the work of PDCA. So welcome aboard, Gabby. And a heartfelt thanks to Michael and Pat Kushlis, co-chairs of the PDCA Awards Committee, and to all the members of that committee for your work in reviewing all the awards, nominations, and selecting this impressive group of winners. Finally, congratulations and a salute to today's participants, Foreign Service officers and locally employed staff. You give us hope for the future of effective American public diplomacy. May your innovative initiatives inspire your colleagues around the globe to connect to the public in new ways for the greater understanding that we all need for a better world. We look forward to a continuing engagement with you. Next week, PDCA brings you Chapter 2 of our 2023 award winners. We will be featuring one post, Embassy Kiev, and focus on what a dedicated team can do in a difficult wartime environment. That program will be next Monday, June 12th at 12 noon. Look for the registration link in yesterday's weekly update, or go to the PDCA website, publicdiplomacy.org, to register. Until then, have a good week, and thank you for joining us today.